Pony, this is Chokvi, and welcome back to my Legends of Magic Miniseries. Today I'm finally getting around to talking about the mage, Meadowbrook. And I've been putting this off for so long because I didn't want to buy the comic. But I finally buckled down and used a credit card, so without further ado. To start off with, let's talk about swamp fever. While this sickness is pretty fantastical, it comes from the demented minds of our writers, it is kind of interesting. Mainly, this plant's magic reminds me of poison joke, as it causes magical transformation, and still the disease is communicatable, which makes it much more insidious. But Meadowbrook herself. Meadow lives in Hayseed Swamp, which, like the Cajun ponies, is an obvious reference to the old Southern poor. While Meadow seems more of a representation of all swamp folk, she does call her home a bayou, which makes me think that the other Cajun references are not a mistake. In particular, I think she's a reference to New Orleans and French Louisiana, which is mainly because she lives in a southern swamp and she uses Cajun words like bayou. And yet, unlike the swamp folk from the previous episode, I think she's more like a poor girl from New Orleans. In addition, her main feature is her mask, which is a reference to a French tradition of plague doctors wearing masks so that they wouldn't catch the disease in question. Furthermore, I think she's a reference to hoodoo witch doctors, or people who practice the hoodoo African-American folk magic. This combination of old African practices and Christian European folk magic can be used in multiple ways, and is often conflicted in people's minds with voodoo, which is a religion that does share some core commonalities with hoodoo. Both of these are only in America popular in Louisiana and the New Orleans area. And, while hoodoo can be used for both healing and hurting, healing is usually considered better, especially because many practitioners are Christians and believe that hurting magic would be devilry. In such, My Little Pony has taken on the more banal and well-meaning side to their tradition that is often considered dark by too many who don't understand what they're talking about. They take the healer stereotype and run with it. In addition to this, in the comics there are further references to hoodoo and voodoo connection, particularly the main disease that she has. But first, the town is called Meridian, which is a pun on Meridian, Mississippi, which happened to have a large outbreak of yellow fever. While yellow fever has never been conflated with The Walking Dead, its viralness has often been cited by people in talking about how zombies spread, and some of its symptoms, including drowsiness and discoloration, have been a part of the zombie myth. But finally, of course, we get to the zombies themselves. The zombies are a classic of literature coming from Haitian myth and are related to hoodoo tradition. Zombies are considered to be the work of a Bokor. These come from the same base African myths that evolved into mostly good works of hoodoo, while Bokor are usually considered evil by outsiders. And now the crux. Frogs. The infection of the town is actually due to a contamination of their food relating to frogs. Interestingly, frogs and toads are both two of the 4 ingredients which are in most known zombie powders. These are used as irritants to block the main ingredient, tetrodotoxin, which is a real mouthful and comes from pufferfish. Interestingly, the most common theory is that these would cause an irritation in the victim's skin, which would allow the tetrodotoxin to cause a state of living death. It would appear like they got sick, died, and when the Bokor dug them up and woke them up, they would think that they were zombies. While simplified, this does match the basic concept of the comic. Of course, some of it could be explained by psychotropic drugs rather than traditional hoodoo. I just felt this would make a better connection to the main topic of my video. It is actually believed that most common myths come from mass hallucination brought on by drugs. This would just as easily explain the zombieism, it just isn't as interesting. In any case, that's all for me, folks, for today. I'm not sure, but I might be taking a short hiatus next week before my video on the finale. And of course, I think I'll slow my production down after the season ends.